Okay. I'm all set.
One moment.
Are you rolling? Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Everybody in? Okay. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you all once again for showing up for my presentation on nonlinear geometrodynamics. And no, actually, I lied to protect you from the truth, which is that we're doing Attack on Titan yet again.
Go back to the nonlinear dynamics.
I want to stress that I never intended it to go this far. When I started this project, I wanted to create a small recap PowerPoint for the first 3 seasons in preparation for the final season, so-called. And then that project gradually spiraled out of control. And now we're doing one final PowerPoint in preparation for, I'm not joking about this, the final season, part 3, part 1.
That doesn't sound promising. The part 1.
So
Yeah, the part 1's got me a little nervous.
the way that this is happening, I think, is there was only like 9 or so chapters left to adapt. And so they're just basically doing it in 2 long episodes. One of which released yesterday. And the second one will be released at a later point. Okay. So this is in preparation for the final season, part 3, part 1. Congratulations, you've made it to the end. This is the last one of these I'm going to do.
I think we've heard that before.
You haven't, actually. I
Okay.
very specifically stipulated last time that I might have to do one more of these, and this is that.
You're right.
All right, so some heads up. We're doing very brief recap this time to try and keep this under an hour. So I have condensed the recap to 3 slides.
No way.
If anyone out there on the internet is watching this later on and you want more detail on the previous events of the story, you can go check the previous videos that have been posted, which covers that material much more extensively. And as always, audience participation is outright begged. Please interrupt me at any point with just, questions, comments, bullshit, whatever you want. This is this is the game we're in now. All right, so previously on Attack on Titan,
Monkey. Slide 1.
Eren has gone AWOL.
Well, that's every season. What are you talking about?
War has begun between Marley and Paradis.
Okay.
Annie's still stuck in the rock.
Some things never change.
All right, that was your recap. We're into
right.
things now. So, at present, the factions contesting for power are they each have different plans. We're going to go over these plans.
Okay.
The first plan, the main plan, is the partial rumbling, which is have Historia, the queen, come into contact with Zeke, the beast titan, which fulfills the conditions needed to activate the power of the founding titan and control all titans. The plan then is to bring down a small portion of the walls and have the titans within them go and crush the global military alliance, assembling to attack Paradis.
Just a few titans.
Just a couple titans as a treat.
A scotch of titans.
Yes.
Okay.
Just, to sort of demonstrate the power,
Sure.
knock out, basically all of the world's military,
Sure.
and then have like a good 50 years or so to catch up with the rest of the world technologically.
This is the Eren plan.
This is all of the main characters' plans.
Okay.
So like, Armin, Mikasa, Hanji, like all the people who we have come to know and love in the course of the story want this plan. However, there are others who want different plans, as these things tend to go. The second plan is really not terribly readable, is the euthanasia plan. The plan here is to have Zeke and Eren come into contact to activate the founding titan. sterilize the entire Eldian population. How?
How?
The power of the founding Titan can alter the body, like every aspect of the bodies of every Eldian.
Oh.
This is one of its powers. It's like connected through metaphysical paths of time and space to every Eldian.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eldians all die out in a generation, and you can't be racist against someone if they're all dead.
Well, there you go.
This is Zeke's plan, who is, I must stress, an Eldian. This is a plan very full of self-loathing.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't say.
That monkey.
That fucking monkey, man.
Fucking monkey.
All right. The third plan is the Stop Eren plan.
Okay.
This is Marley's plan. The objective here is to stop Eren, have one of Marley's Titan warriors eat him, acquire the founding Titan power, thereby effectively rendering Paradis militarily inert, and they can just go in and take all their fossil fuels and not, die from the rumbling.
Okay.
Uh,
Can't be.
yeah, you can't be scared of someone if they're dead. Because right now, Marley is very scared of Paradis and the power that they have, the rumbling. But if all the Paradisians are dead, don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
This is true.
Then there is what I will tentatively call Eren's plan. We don't know what Eren's plan is, but we're pretty sure that he has one that he's not telling anybody.
It's a plan.
Flock probably.
Flock does probably know, because Flock is like the lead Jaegerist. He's like the lead Eren fanboy. So Flock probably knows what Eren's plan
Isn't he
is.
the one we don't like though?
He is the one that I hate.
Fucking Flock.
Flock is the worst. Yeah, and this is the Jaegerist's plan.
The Jaegers are those who follow Eren.
Who follow Eren. Yes. Okay. So these are the plans. These are the broad boundaries of the coming conflict. All right. So time to get into new material. See, I did it. I condensed it down this time.
Nicely done. Well done. Francis.
If further details are required, there's a handout on the table over there with accompanying notes. Okay. Oh, by the way, Levi got blown up at the end of last season, and he looks like he's on the brink of death.
Oh, he's not dead yet.
He's good.
They start the season by recovering his body, and Hanji's looking at him like, ah, damn, he's dead. The explosion ripped up his internal organs. He's dead. And Flock is also there, and he's just like, let me see the body. Because it's Flock, and that's the sort of thing that Flock would say. And Hanji just kind of sits there quietly and doesn't give him the body. Meanwhile, also at the end of last season, Zeke got blown up in the same explosion, and again, details on this in previous videos. What happened was a Titan came up, ripped open its own belly, and just kind of perched Zeke inside like a kangaroo. Zeke emerges from the corpse of this Titan, very shaken. This
As
is,
one would.
I mean, sure. Hanji takes advantage of the surprise of everybody around to grab Levi's body, jump in the river, and leave. Zeke describes what happened to him inside of the belly. And he says, this was really confusing. It felt like it was in another place. And we see this image of his body being sculpted from like earth by this little girl in this what looks like a desert at night, basically. And he realizes, wait a minute, I was in the paths, capital T, capital P, which is this thing that connects all of the Eldians together. And it's where all the Titan powers come from. It's like, all the material that becomes a Titan body is transported along the paths. And he says, okay, I was in the paths. I guess I'm okay. Let's go join the battle again. Meanwhile, back at the battle, the war is happening. Marley has just invaded on their blimps. They got a ton of soldiers coming down. Eren has transformed into his Titan. And Yelena, one of Zeke's right-hand people, is just like, Eren, don't fight them right now. Let's regroup and consider our options. And Eren's just like, don't fight. That doesn't sound like something I would do, and completely ignores her. and starts joining the battle against Reiner, the armored Titan, and Porco, the current Jaw Titan, and recipient of the world's most unfortunate name. At the same time, some of the Marleyan commanders meet with the Cart Titan, and they kind of assess, what Eren's sort of current plan is, which is basically just to try and meet up with Zeke. And they're like, all right, we got to stop that, because we're doing the Stop Eren plan.
Sure.
So, all right, Cart Titan, we've made this big new, cannon on a backpack for you. Get up on top of the walls and just start sniping people. Meanwhile, all the main characters, aside from Eren, are down in prison, because they were imprisoned at the end of the last part. On Yonkopon, the world's most put-upon man, who's really just trying to do a good job, he goes out and sets them free, and he's just like, you gotta help Eren, you gotta help him do the partial rumbling. He's not doing so well in the battle right now. And everyone's just like, he wants to do the euthanasia plan. That's what we were told. And Armin, the voice of reason, as always, says, guys, do you really, honestly, have you met Eren for more than 3 picoseconds? Obviously, he's not on board with the euthanasia plan. And everyone's like, you raise a good point, Armin. And that was, basically all the conversation that took.
He is a good speaker, Armin.
He is a very good speaker. He's a convincing man.
He is.
Also, he looks like he's straight out of the Beatles.
Yeah, I think we addressed this last time. His haircut changed during the time skip. I kind of like it, but that's
I do too.
that's a matter of personal
None
taste
of the Beatles were blonde.
that we know of, anyway.
It's more like ABBA. Anyway.
Yeah. All right, so Zeke joins the battle. He starts throwing things,
Damn monkey.
as the fucking monkey does. He hits basically all of Marley's blimps, and they all come crashing down. Yelena's having a grand old time.
Apparently.
So, does everyone remember Gabby and Falco?
Yep.
The best boy. So Gabby, Falco, and Falco's brother, they're all sort of hiding in this house, and Gabby finally has her moment of realization. She's like, oh, these people on this island aren't monsters.
Imagine that.
Except for the monkey.
Well, the monkey, whatever. No one likes the monkey. She finally has her moment of realization. She's just like, good, I am not racist anymore. And Falco, she is. Well, she's waking.
Okay, all right.
Falco, absolute Chad that he is, confesses his love to Gabby at this point. Because
I forgot that.
he's drank Zeke's spinal fluid at this point. Zeke's in the battle now. He has no idea what he's going to do. And so he's thinking he's basically on death's door. And so he confesses his love to Gabby. Eren could never.
Love.
Yeah, whatever.
How could Eren love anyone when he doesn't love himself?
This is true. I guess what I should have said was Mikasa could never. Because Mikasa has clearly held a torch for Eren since the beginning. But
Oh my God, yeah, honey. Sheesh.
in light of this revelation, Gabby and Falco's brother are like, look, we know Zeke. Sure, he's, switched sides more times than anyone can count. Who knows what side he's on right now? But we've known him. We've fought alongside him for a while. Maybe if we ask him to, delay a little bit so that we can get you out of range of his scream power.
Because his spinal fluid will do what?
Anyone who has,
anyone who
ingested
hears
his
his
spinal
scream?
fluid and hears his scream turns into a Titan.
That's right. And just a regular type
Just a regular mindless Titan.
who can't ever turn back into a human.
Right.
Okay.
Unless they eat another...
Sure, there's always that.
Yeah, unless they eat one of the 9. And they're like, worth a shot. Meanwhile, Zeke gets shot
Yay.
by the Cart Titan. Her cannon thing, she pulls a maneuver and he gets almost lethally shot.
Man, she took a chunk out there.
Yeah, if it had been a couple meters closer to the head, he would have been dead,
Yeah,
full out.
They'd have got his neck.
Unfortunately, he's not dead. And they get to Zeke and beg him to not scream. And he's just like, damn, that sucks for you. And screams. And
Why does he have to scream, though? Like, what's his motivation to scream?
At this point, a lot of people in the town have consumed his spinal fluid. And so it's effectively
So
like...
this is how he defeats the town.
But yeah, basically.
Okay.
It's effectively a bombing campaign with more steps. So he screams. Tons of people turn into Titans all over, including Falco. Porco, the current Jaw Titan, is also on death's door at this point. He's having trouble regenerating. But in the battle, he, like, through some contrivance and circumstance, receives memories of, like, his older brother telling Reiner that, like, he deliberately made his younger brother look bad to keep him from getting the power so that he wouldn't have to die an early death. And so, like, he deliberately boosted Reiner in the eyes of the assessors, even though Reiner was kind of shit in training. And so, you know, Porco comes along and says, look, I'm not making it out of this, but now I know that I was always the better man than you. And then Falco, in his Titan form, comes and eats him, kills him. So Falco, despite having briefly turned into a mindless Titan, immediately consumes one of the 9, the Jaw Titan. Okay, so this next slide contains a lot of material. Not like time-wise, but just like there's a lot happening here. So before we get to it, Eren is, in the battle. Zeke is in the battle. They're very close to each other. They just need to, like, basically walk down a street to each other in order to get into contact.
And they literally just have to touch.
They literally just have to touch.
Okay.
Zeke is immobilized on the ground, but Eren has immobilized his opponent, and now he's running. He's running down the street towards Zeke. They're like, yeah, come on, let's make contact. And Gabby, who witnessed all of this happen, picks up a gigantic sniper rifle and shoots Eren's head off, utterly decapitating him. His head goes flying. First of all, this is where this chapter of the manga ended. It ended with Eren's head being blown off. But in the show, fortunately, they don't make us wait a month to see what happens. His head, despite being blown off, tumbles into the air, and Zeke catches it in his hand.
Uh-oh.
So they've made contact. What follows is A, one of the best arcs of the entire story, but B, the most ludicrous series of Uno reverses that I have ever seen in my life.
Reverse.
We're gonna go over them
Okay.
in detail. So, because they made contact, Eren and Zeke find themselves in the Paths dimension.
Right.
Not just them, but the little girl.
Sure.
And they deduce that this is Ymir, the original possessor of the Titan powers. And that this column of light is the coordinate where all of the paths meet. This is where, the founding Titan's power is exercised. This is where they need to be. Zeke is in chains, and he says, oh, this is because of that vow-renouncing war that my ancestors made. I can't do anything here, but you, Eren, you can. You can do the euthanasia plan. Do it. Fulfill our dreams. And Eren says, Uno reverse. Of course I would not do that dumbass plan. Why would you ever think I would go along with that? Have you met me? Zeke is distraught, betrayed, bamboozled even. And Eren walks up to Ymir and says, Ymir, lend me your power. And Ymir absolutely ghosts him, walks straight past him like he didn't even exist. And Zeke says, Uno reverse. I actually got here before you and had Ymir make fake chains to make it look like I was powerless, to test you, to make sure that you were really on my side. But you weren't, Eren. It turns out Ymir has the mind of a slave and will only obey a descendant of the royal family. which only I am. I used you, Eren, you fool, worm, like a key to get here. I'm going to do the euthanasia plan, but before I do, I'm going to free you from the ideology of nationalism that your father instilled in you, that our father instilled in you, that I outgrew, but that you still need someone to help save you from. And so he goes up to Eren, touches him, and they dive into Eren's memories.
Okay.
Pictured here, one of Eren's first memories. He is, of course, screaming.
Sure. Well, you know.
So, inside of Eren's memories, Zeke keeps trying to convince Eren that his father, Grisha, instilled in him this nationalism, this violent desire to do war. But memory after memory after memory, he keeps failing to find Grisha doing that. And he's just like, well, shit, I guess he did love his second family. Well, good for you. In a memory, in particular in the basement, you remember the basement, right? You remember that when that was like the most important thing?
Yeah, they all go to the basement.
In a memory where Grisha is writing the books that he stored in the basement, he's like half asleep, and they're all just kind of like, oh yeah, well, I guess that makes sense for him to do, to write these books. And Grisha gets up and says, Zeke, is that you? It's kind of debatable whose Uno reverse this actually goes to, but this was definitely a reverse at some point. It's sort of implying that, like, the Grisha in the past can see Zeke from the future, which is a little odd and not typically how things are supposed to work. And so Eren says, all right, let's keep going, Zeke. You started this, let's finish this. So they go to the memory where where Grisha kills the royal family and takes the power of the founding titan for himself. Now, the way this is supposed to go is Grisha, uses his scalpel to stab himself in the hand. He transforms, battle ensues, munch munch, I have the power now. But the way it actually goes is after, some pleading with the current possessor of the founding titan, the current king, Grisha is about to do it, and then he stops. He drops his scalpel, he drops to the floor, and he's just like, I can't do it. I'm a doctor. I can't kill children. This is going against, like, everything that I am. And Zeke is absolutely dumbfounded. Because, that's not what happened. So Eren goes over, and he huddles up right next to his father's ear, and gives him such a loving, comforting look, and says,
Hey, he's not screaming.
well, yeah, this is actually more terrifying.
Yeah.
He goes up to his father and says, hey, little bitch, what do you think you're doing? You came here. You gotta do this. This is what's gotta be done. Don't you remember how the Marleyans killed your little sister with their dogs? You gotta commit to this even after you're dead. You gotta do this. And he's basically driving his father into a psychotic frenzy. And that's the point where his father, stabs himself and munch munch, I have the power. What is established in this is that the particular power of the Titan that Eren has is to see the memories of its future inheritors. So it's basically to see the future. So Eren has kind of known that all of this is going to be happening. So the next scene we see is Grisha just distraught outside of the chapel where the previous scene took place. And he's just like, Eren, I killed all of them just like you asked. Is this what you wanted? Is that enough? Will this really help save us? Why won't you show me everything that I want to see? So, yeah, Eren has just been completely organizing all of it. Everything that has happened in the story up to this point has been because Eren orchestrated it through this sort of future sight thing that all of his predecessors have possessed. And Grisha, kneeling before Zeke, his other son, says, Zeke, I'm so sorry. I treated you horribly. I wish I could take it back. I wish I could do it over again. Zeke, I've seen what Eren is planning. You need to stop him. And at that point, Eren kind of just goes full villain. Like, he does, like, the dark stare. And, you know, they're jolted back out into the past dimension, and Eren's just kind of sitting there like, hey, we didn't get to the part where I eat dad. Don't you want to see that? So, like, he's just completely off the deep end at this point. The next slide begins the most densely packed episode of Attack on Titan. I am going to mark with red dots the beginning and the end of the events that happen in this episode. So keep an eye out.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, another Uno reverse, certainly. Zeke commands Ymir to start the euthanasia plan. Eren's also chained up here in another Uno reverse that I forgot to mention. There's a lot of things, a lot of turns of fate happening in this sequence. Eren rips his own hands off to escape the chains, reaches Ymir, and we finally get Ymir's backstory. 2,000 years ago, Ymir is a slave underneath the rule of a man named Fritz. She, and all of the slaves get their tongues cut out, are put to work in service of Fritz and his armies. And one day, he calls his slaves forward and says, "One of you let out my pigs last night. Which one was it? Tell me who it is, or else I'll pluck an eye from each of you. Slaves only need one eye to do their work." And immediately all the other slaves, snitch, give her up, point out, yeah, it was this little girl who let your pigs out. And he's just like, cool, you can go, little girl. And so he sends his men to start hunting her on horseback and, like, with archers.
So it was just a game?
It was just a
Let her
game.
go. Okay.
Yeah, run, play with your food, basically.
Mm-hmm.
She's, almost dead at this point. They're closing in on her. And she stumbles upon this really weird, really large tree with an opening at its base. So she's like, I guess as good a place to hide as any. She goes in and slips and falls into a giant pool of water underneath this tree. This pool contains, and this is not super easy to see, it contains this spine-looking dude. It's this organism that kind of looks like one of those prehistoric, like, centipede guys, but just like swimming around in this subterranean pool. Goes up to her, attaches to her spine, and boom, she turns into a Titan. So, whatever this organism is, it is the source of the Titan powers.
Okay.
Instead of, using this power to get back at Fritz, she's very much still in the slave mindset and goes back to like work for him, to seek his favor, to like, oh, I can do something now. And she does. She becomes the tribe of Eldia's most powerful asset, their most powerful weapon. She conquers armies, builds bridges, cultivates lands, all still enslaved to Fritz, King Fritz now. He even has 3 daughters of his. Probably not consensually. It's implied that he just kind of said, hey, congratulations, as your reward, you'll have my seed. And it's like, okay.
To Ymir.
To Ymir, yeah. So she has 3 daughters, and at one point, a ceremony is happening. A bunch of conquered soldiers are being lined up in front of the king. Maybe he wanted to give them meatballs. I don't know. I'm assuming something worse than that. But one of them sneakily hid a spear, a javelin, and picked it up and threw it at the king, at King Fritz. But Emir, still in her slave mindset, took the shot for him. And, as she's like bleeding out on the ground in front of him, he's just like, "What are you doing? I know this can't kill you. Get up." And at that moment, all of the hope leaves her eyes and she dies. Because the only way that a possessor of the Titan power can die is if they lose the will to live. And it's implied that at this moment, with this final sort of betrayal, she sort of gave up. King Fritz, not content with the atrocities committed so far, is just like, I can one-up this.
I can make this sicker.
I can make this way sicker. Hey, 3 daughters, you ever heard of cannibalism?
Oh, no.
You're gonna eat every last ounce of your mother's body so that you can obtain her power and pass it on. Here's the thing that really fucks me up about this. He had no idea this would work.
Yeah.
Now, it did. It did wind up working. The power did get passed on to her daughters. But the king had no way of knowing that. He just did cannibalism as a default response.
As one would.
Sure. And it's just in the most tragic fate imaginable. Ymir's spirit, I guess, is caught in the paths. So she's not even allowed to die, really. She's caught in this paths realm and cursed, really, to physically sculpt all of the Titan bodies for the rest of history. Like, with her own bare hands and a bucket of water, she builds every Titan body.
That sucks. She's still a slave.
She's still a slave. This is her entire existence. 2,000 years worth of slavery.
2,000 years of slave.
It's also, it's been brought up before amongst certain members of the fandom that, this might be the reason why all the Titans look kind of weird.
Yeah, you must get tired of doing that.
Well, that, or just she's, she might not have a super great understanding of anatomy.
Apparently not.
So, I figure, you mess up a few times. So yeah,
Just did it to keep things interesting.
maybe. You gotta take what you can get.
Exactly.
But so this is the sort of the thing that King Fritz says, in his final decrees is daughters, you eat your mother's spine to gain the power. When you die, have your children eat your spines and pass it on forever and ever. And the tribe of Eldia will never, for the rest of the world, be conquered. And at this point, we cut back to Eren. And Eren says, Uno reverse. Hey, Ymir, your life has been really terrible, but you don't have to listen to him anymore. I'm gonna end the world. You want in? This is your power. You get to decide what to do with this. I want to end the world. Are you in on the plan?
Hold it, wait a minute. Wait.
Yeah?
Eren says he's going to end the world.
We'll get a little more
But he
into
was
it.
unwilling to do euthanasia of one race.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
All right.
So, in fact, we're going to get into it next slide. So, for the very first time since we've seen her on screen, we see Ymir with her eyes.
Ooh.
This is really nice artistic symbolism. First of all, she's crying. This is the first moment where she has actually been able to do what she wants, and she chooses violence. Back out in the real world, the spine-looking dude shoots out of Eren's decapitated body, slithers around, and connects with his head. His head becomes alive again, and the walls start crumbling. But here's the thing. All of the walls start crumbling. Not just a little section like the partial rumbling plan had. All of the walls come down. and all of the colossal titans start marching. And Eren becomes this big guy, even like at least 5 times taller than any of the colossal titans. And just the march begins. Armin and Mikasa are standing on top of like a roof when this is happening. And originally Armin's like, okay, Eren's on our side. He's doing the partial rumbling. And then he starts counting. And then he's like, wait a minute, this is like way too many for the partial rumbling. All of the walls are coming down. No, he wouldn't actually be doing what I think he's doing, right? And it's at that point that every Eldian in the world gets pulled into the paths for a message from Eren to every Eldian in the world, and he says, my name is Eren Yeager. I am going I'm trying to fight Marley. I am in control of the colossal titans. The rumbling has begun. My goal is to protect the lives of the people on my island, the people that I was born with, raised with, the culture that I grew up in. Fuck everybody else. I am going to destroy the entire world with these titans until the people of Paradis are the only life forms left in the world. And that's where the episode ends. So again, I want to stress, everything between that and like all the way to back here happens in the span of one 25-minute episode. It is an insanely densely packed episode, and I always forget how much happens in it when I go back to rewatch it. So yeah, Eren's plan is actually start the rumbling, kill everyone, and you can't be racist against someone if you're dead. This is the plan of an angry idiot.
But is he wrong?
Well, this was where all the discussion happened. There was much discourse.
My favorite meal.
3 courses of discourse. Okay, so for the bulk of the rest of this, we're going to be dealing with everyone else's response to this revelation. Gabby is... She's still not racist, but she's still a good shot. And so she picks up the gun and goes to like start helping people. Particularly, she rescues Sasha's family, who was also, just sort of tangentially mixed up in all this. And, they sort of reconcile, and they start to go try to find someone who can help. Keith Shadis, who, if you remember, is the, drill sergeant who just got constantly shat on in his life. He actually gets to be the hero for a little while. He saves some of the new recruits who had, beat him up in the last season. And, because we still have to deal with all of those titans that Zeke created. The town is still full of, regular titans. Not even counting, the millions upon millions of colossal titans who have begun their march. We still got to deal with, the present problem of titans. And so, a sequence is done of the main characters cleaning up the town, killing the titans, including one of them who was unfortunately Pixis, who got transformed into a titan. I'm sure he'd be happy to know that, his last moment was him taking a swig from a bottle. So, I guess he went out as he lived. So, unfortunately, Dot Pixis dies. But, after that's done, we say, okay, good, we've got the local situation fixed. What do we do now? Now, the main characters are all starting to meet up at this point, including Gabby. Reiner's off taking a nap somewhere because he got depressed. Gabby comes in, meets Armin, and is like, you got to help me get Reiner. We can stop Eren. We can do something. Start assembling the forces, assemble the Avengers. And, when Eren brought the walls down, Reiner's armor also shattered, so, he's in a bad state right now. And Armin perks up at this, and he's like, wait. His armor shattered? When? Right when the walls came down, when the Titans came out. And he's like, that means that all of the hardening has been undone. So Annie's out of the rock. Annie's finally out of the rock. And this is, I think, an appropriate expression for someone who's finally gotten out of the rock after... okay, so I did a graph. So this is Annie's contribution to the story. This is by episode number, not necessarily by time, but yeah. She spent like a good 60-ish% inside of the rock and a good 30 to 40-ish% inside of the rock. And yes, this is counting the 2 upcoming episodes.
Oh, this is a surprising amount of outside rock. I guess.
Yeah, I gotta be honest.
Feel that big.
I was surprised too. I was expecting a smaller percentage, but like the bulk of this is season 1.
Okay.
Which is like a good 20-odd episodes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but she's out of the rock, finally.
Yay.
What are the percentages again?
The percentages are inside rock, 62.9%, outside rock, 37.1%.
That's number of episodes, not...
Yeah, that's by number of
Okay.
like by like percentage of episode count
Got it.
that she's been in the rock.
Got it.
It's still a lot of time in the rock.
It's a lot of rock time.
And, you know, upon exiting, she confronts the one person who was assigned to guard her, which actually is her old roommate, which really just kind of sucks. Like,
Well, better than a stranger.
yeah. But, you know, she gets out. She confronts her roommate, Hitch, and she's like, I had to listen to you talk about all the men who you've like failed to have a relationship with for like 5 years. You are going to listen to me tell you my backstory, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So we hear Annie's backstory. She was abandoned at birth outside of one of the internment zones, picked up by this Eldian who taught her to do like judo, basically. Horrible father, just like beat her up and said like, "Hey, get good," until she was able to like main him, and then he was like, "Okay, you're ready. I've taught you everything I know, child who can now dismember
what a good
people."
dad I am.
Yeah, this is parenting. But on the day when she was going to be shipped out to Parody Island, he apparently had this change of heart, and he's just like, "No, I don't want you to go. I love you." And Annie's expression is just kind of like, "Yeah, whatever, dude." But like, literally, this is the only family she has, and so she's trying to get back to him alive. She made the promise to come back alive, and so that's her motivation now. Meanwhile, the Cart Titan and one of the generals of Marley are elsewhere on the island, and they see the rumbling happen. Like, they see the wave of colossal titans passing by. And they say, "Ah, shit, we failed. It's actually happening." And out comes from the bushes Hanji, who's just like, "Hey, I have a Levi over here. Can y'all help me with that?" Levi is in rough shape, but he's alive.
Yay, Levi!
He's all bandaged. He's got like cuts and everything on his. He's missing like some fingers and I think like
An eye?
an eye maybe. I forget exactly what injuries he's had, but like he's alive, and you know he's being sort of wheelchaired around right now. But this is good news. We have one Levi more than we thought we did,
Yay!
and you know we're probably going to need at least one Levi for what's coming up. So they assemble the Avengers. They get all of the main characters together in one room and say, "Hey, we're going to try to stop Eren and save the world. The plan has changed. The plan is no longer partial rumbling because that's off the table now. So is euthanasia. We're now on the stop Eren plan, I guess. So we're gonna try and go and like stop him from doing the rumbling." And so there's an episode where all of the characters are sat around a campfire in a forest, like trying to reconcile their differences. Yes?
How will they stop Eren? Like, what can
That's a really good question.
No, I mean, like, what could Eren do to stop? Because the rumbling's already happening. Like, all
Right.
the Titans have been released from the wall.
Right, but it's sort of implied that, like Eren
what
is
can stop the Titans?
the founding Titan.
Okay.
It's, you
And
know,
Eren's the founding Titan, so they can somehow get him to stop it.
right.
Okay.
If they can get
So
him...
that's their only hope.
Yeah, the only hope is to convince him to stop the rumbling
Got it.
or to kill him.
Have somebody eat him.
Yeah, or literally, even if it's not eaten, just literally just kill him if that's what needs to be done. And so in this forest episode, one of the questions that Annie brings up to Mikasa is, if that's what it comes to, are you going to be able to kill him? She does not take kindly to this suggestion. They almost have a fight, but don't. And throughout, there's a lot of like spats happening in this episode because, you know, they're enemies that are trying to like convene reluctantly for a final push. There's a lot of dirty laundry that needs to be aired. John finally finds out that Rhino's the one who killed Marco, his old best friend, and like that, you know, he punches him for that. But that's just kind of Reiner's life now. He just receives pain always. And Hanges is kind of sitting there making soup the whole time. And it's just like, guys, why are you fighting? We have soup.
Yeah.
And, you know, dirty laundry is hashed out. They decide, all right, fine, you know, whatever happens, we're on the same side for this at the very least. So they go to the port because at the port is a prototype airplane that the stand-in for Japan in this universe has built with its engineers, and they're all at the port, you know, tending to this aircraft so that they can get on the aircraft, fly above the, you know, line of colossal titans, and maybe drop down on Eren and do something. Because there's no way any land-based vehicle is going to be able to get close to Eren. Their only hope is this aircraft. Unfortunately, Flock and the Jaegerists are at the port. And they have the engineers hostage. So Armin is just like, wait a minute, hold on. Technically, they still think we're on their side. Technically, they still think we're with the Jaegerists. So let's just walk in and try to convince them to give us the boat.
Roll d20.
Roll d20 for deception. They do not roll a d20 for deception.
Well, no, they're not Connie.
These are not d20 deception faces.
Yeah. They do look a little nervous.
Yeah, like, I think the lie he comes up with is something just like, "Hey, Flock, you know, one of the Marleyans are after Eren, trying to stop him. We need the plane to go stop the Marleyans." And Flock is just like, "That ain't the biggest pile of shit I ever heard in my life." Yeah, so unfortunately, the deception attempt does not work, and they need to basically kill all of their comrades at the port. There's this huge battle. Connie literally like needs to shoot one of his former roommates in the head. People getting crushed. We finally see the female Titan in action again now that she's out of the rock, so that's, you know, fun. The new Jaw Titan, Falco, transforms for the first time. We get to see the new form. It's very bird-like. Yeah. I guess the name, Falco. Yeah. Flock almost stops them. He goes to like they're on the boat. They have the thing. They're sailing away, and he comes up with his giant rocket, and he's about to toss it at the boat when he gets shot in the head or the cheek by Gabby. So finally, the marksmanship comes in handy. They barely avoid disaster, and the ship gets away. In order
The ship has the plane on it?
The ship has the plane behind it. The plan that they come up with is they actually don't have the time or resources at this port to unfold and start the plane. So what they're going to do is they're going to sail to a port city below where the rumbling is happening and try and really quick assemble the plane there before the rumbling reaches that city. And so in order to prevent people from following them, 2 people stay behind to blow up the other boats with them on it. And those 2 people are Magath, the commander of the Marleyan warriors, and Keith Shadis. The bystander, we lose him. Yeah. No. It's this one. It's the salute above the heart. This is what. Yes. So we lose those two characters, unfortunately, and now we get another massive flashback. We get the flashback of when the scouts first arrived on the shores of Marley. Like the first time they're encountering the outside world. And at first, it's very fun. You know, this is nice. They come into this nice, beautiful port. It's all industrialized. There's like vendors and merchants selling food. Sasha's still alive. She's going absolutely nuts at the concept of ice cream, which she's just been introduced to.
Nice.
And
Levi has a hat.
Everyone has a hat. Everyone's very dapper. Everyone's like dressed in these nice clothes. Onyonkopon, the world's best man, comes and greets them. He's their guide. They see an automobile for the first time and they're like, look at that weird cow. And they start like running after it like, hey, come here, cow, I want to see you. And Levi is just like, to Onyonkopon, he says, you gotta like stop them or they're gonna start feeding carrots to that car. and Onyonkopon says, nah, they're not gonna wait, are those carrots? Like they literally went and got carrots and had to be stopped. A clown is at the port. I don't know why a clown would be at the port. A clown comes up behind Levi and he's just like, hey, little kid, what are you doing here? He's real creepy about it. And they get pickpocketed by this small child who is presumably a refugee from somewhere. They catch him in the act and like, you know, they get the money back, but you know, the crowd notices and starts like basically forming an impromptu mob against this small pickpocket child. Just like, yeah, let's just like kill him now. Like here in public. Let's do it to teach him a lesson. And they, you know, the scouts kind of play it off. They say like, oh no, this is my little brother. And nobody's buying it. Like, and so they just kind of take the kid and run. They get to a safe location. The kid steals their money anyway when they weren't looking. But Levi's just like, whatever. That was money that the ambassador gave us. It's fine. So they spend some time at the ambassador's house. Their plan here is to attend a like summit on, you know, the Eldian problem, heavy air quotes, to see if there's like any potential allies that they could achieve diplomatic relations with. It's a no-go. The conference is very anti-Eldian. They're bummed. And this is the last point that anybody like really sees Eren before he goes AWOL. Like they were really kind of banking on this because, you know, even the partial rumbling plan, that's kind of rough and dangerous. So Armin in particular was really banking on a diplomatic solution. And, you know, they spend a night in this refugee camp. Like, there's a point where Eren confronts Mikasa and says, like, hey, Mikasa, straight up, what am I to you? Like, am I a friend or am I family or something more? Like, what is it? And even presented with this golden opportunity, Mikasa balks and says, I think of you as family, which is a lie, an absolute lie.
Kind of Alabama family.
Yeah. Not technically. They're not technically related by blood, as people will be very quick to point out. And so after saying this, like one of the refugees comes up and he's just like, hey, you want to get smashed? We got a bunch of booze over here. And so it's just like the party has, you know, a night in the refugee camp. It's very jovial. It's very friendly. They have a good time. And the next day was when they went to the conference and lost all hope. So back to the present. The rumbling is happening, and it has reached Marleyan shores. There's no going back now. There's a big fleet of ships with cannons aimed in the direction of the rumbling. All of the world's navies and militaries are assembled in this force. And they're like, all right, here we go. Fire. A huge barrage of I don't know, cannon fire, I guess. Not actually cannonballs, but a huge barrage goes out, starts hitting some of the colossal titans, barely even makes a dent. This is like the combined military might of the world, and it's just basically bouncing off of the rumbling. The colossal titans, they're actually like swimming through the ocean. Like they're literally just like paddling. Because like when people heard that the rumbling would have to cross the ocean, even back when the manga was still coming out, they asked the question like, okay, so like, are they just like walking on the bottom of the ocean? Like, what are they doing? And no, they're literally just like swimming. It's like, oh, okay, I guess they can swim. Yeah, so like the rumbling, the wave of colossal titans comes, this massive plume of steam following them, and it basically just boils alive everybody in the fleet. The ships are all tossed into the air, destroyed, useless. And all of the soldiers posted on the shore see this happen, and they're just like, all right, I'm out. There's no point. There's no point in fighting. So everybody just starts running. And in the distance, you see this really sort of gangly form that Eren has taken now. It basically looks like a skeleton on marionette strings. And yeah, the rumbling is in full swing. And that's where it ends. We are in the heat of things now. So I'll remind you, when at the very beginning of all this, I gave you a summary of the story of Attack on Titan. And that summary was, once upon a time, some pigs got loose, one thing led to another, and the entire world is about to be destroyed by naked man-eating giants. And that's really is the end of the story so far. Thank you all. I really, really thank you for coming to this so many times. Yeah, so the first of the two parts aired yesterday. You can go watch that if you want. I made a little boo-boo on the scheduling of this. I thought I had way more time to get this out. I thought it was going to be airing on March the 23rd, but it's airing in March of 2023. I misread the date, and so, yeah, that's it. Thank you for coming.
Yay! So we should have bacon at these presentations, because it started with pigs.
Yeah, we should.